All right, today we are going to tie a bee bugger with a cone head. It's got rubber legs. It's just a woolly bugger variation. Can tie it in all sorts of different colors. This is the bee bugger yellow and black variegation colorway. So let's get started. We're going to do a 4x long streamer hook with a large gold a large gold cone to start. And we're going to weight this, and this is 3/5 lead. About 20 wraps or so. That's what we're gonna do. Push it into that cone, push the ends down, and I'm using black 140. You can use 210 for strength or build up if you want it. I just like using the 140. And I'm going to start it just right behind my lead. Build a little bit of a thread dam up there so it doesn't slide, and then I'm gonna go over my lead quite a few times, back and forth. Starts to hold that lead into place. And then wrapping pretty tightly, to secure that lead, to make sure it doesn't spin. One more additive, I will use some Z-Mint, just a little bit of brush onto that lead to help secure that on there. And then I'm gonna bring my thread just before the bend there. I'm going to take a yellow marabou, which I've cleaned up a little bit. I'm gonna do it about the length of the entire body of the fly there, so I secure it right at the back. And I actually lift mine up, and I come to just the lead on this bottom color to kind of create that uniform bulk throughout. And I cut that off. That's not gonna go anywhere. Back to the tie-in point. I'm going to take a black marabou. These are both blood quill or strung marabou. Then I'm going to line that up with my yellow to the best of my ability. Hold it in place and tie that just on top. Several wraps over where I tied in, then bring my thread pretty much to the front. Doesn't have to be exact, but just to the front of the cone there. And chop that off at the front, and then just come over the top of that to the back where the tail ties in again. I'm going to add some flash to the tail. I'm going to add it's hot yellow crystal flash, and I do just 4 strands. Seems enough, but you can definitely add more if you'd like. I'm going to tie that on the opposite side of my hook there and leave it long enough to where it goes past the tail, and I come towards the cone just a tad. I've got quite a bit of crystal flash that I'll come over the top, catch it, and then bring it on that opposite side so we have flash on both sides in one tie-in point. Helps it stay in place and everything else. Then we will start to do the body. That is finished tail. I'm going to take gold medium size wire and tie that in really well. Then we're going to take variegated yellow and black rayon chenille, and I'm going going to tie that in. I just strip a little bit off. I don't really do that. This bulk isn't gonna be too crazy, so, but tie that in at the same spot there, out the back. And then I'm gonna bring my thread to about the middle. I mean, middle, a little behind, little in front's all right. I just wanna have enough space for 2 sets of legs here. I'm gonna do, you got it, yellow and black variegated or grizzly barred round rubber legs. I pre-cut these, but I just kind of cut them to length. I like longer legs for sure. I just take 2 of them, line them up. I hold them just right across the hook at about the midpoint, catch it on top. And then I'm going to figure 8 this guy in. And you can always kind of manipulate your rubber legs to where they need to be. And I go over, crisscrossing, figure 8ing over the top of those several times. Bring my thread forward a fair amount and 2 more. Do know with these rubber legs that we're gonna be able to manipulate kind of where they lay as well once we wrap that chenille for it as well. I'm gonna grab 2 more. Again, find about the middle and come over the top of those, catch it once, come over the top the opposite direction, start to manipulate these in place. And so I've got 2 sets of 2 rubber legs coming out the side of that. And I stick them out pretty much straight out, a little back towards the back is good. And then I bring my thread all the way to the front. Okay, now I'm going to wrap my body, my chenille forward. But first I'm gonna take my wire and I'm gonna bring that forward. And I'm gonna kind of do 1 wrap right at the marabou tail and crystal flash with the wire forward, and then I bring my wire back. Brings kind of a easier point to start your ribbing with that wire once you bring that forward. Doesn't mess up that marabou quite as much. Then I'm going to bring my chenille forward and come to the back of that first rubber leg, then come right in front of it, make sure that we're not catching them. We're gonna do several wraps in between those. Again, make sure that we don't. Come to the next one, right behind it, then manipulate and make sure that we come right in front of that. And then finish off the body and tie that in right at the front. And we will cut off our excess chenille. All right. At this point, this is when I do straighten up my rubber legs. I like to pull all of them straight up, and I kind of cut them all to length, leaving pretty good length on there for sure, but pulling them up, cutting them all at once, getting all the same length on that rubber legs. Then I'm going to use, wow, we've got a trend here, yellow and black. Actually, American saddle is what I use for this guy. Has big, nice feathers, webby stuff. This particular feather that I picked out is a little webbier, but I've cleaned up the back end of it for sure. These work really good for these woolly buggers. It's a little bit buggier and makes them a little bit more full. I'll take that and tie that with the front of that feather or the shiny side away from the hook. Catch that stem right behind the gold coin, cut off this extra. Then I'm going to palmer this back. This is just such a long feather, I'm just gonna hold it. I'm going to make sure that I have that so the dull side is towards the tail, the brighter front side is towards the cone, and at least one good cone wrap right there at the cone to create that initial hackling palmering. And I'm going to start palmering it forward, making sure I don't catch any of the rubber legs. And this one is a little bit webbier, but that's all right. Make sure we don't get any of that tail sticking forward. Once we reach that back, we can bring our wire up and tie that feather off in the back. This is the most durable way to tie a woolly bugger or this style of hackle on there. Counter wraps even though you're wrapping the same direction. Taking that wire and ribbing forward, spacing nicely, and then with a webby hackle you want to make sure that you fluff it out so you're not catching a lot of that with the wire. Then eventually coming to the cone and tying it off right at the cone. And tie it off really well. Gonna do a couple wraps in front of it. And then if you've got it tied off really well, we can just helicopter that wire right off. We've got our excess feather, hackle feather in the back. I just pull that one off and we are pretty much done. I'm going to add a whip finish in there. Maybe take some of your favorite head cement or even some of this cement and just a little bit onto your thread. We can wrap that in there to bring that in there so we're not getting glue all over our hackle feathers or anything. And I'm going to whip finish one more time here. Oop. Make sure I'm not catching those hackles. Whipped really good. Pull that tight. Cut her close. And that is your finished product. The Conehead Bee Bugger.